स्टूडेंट्स ऑनलाइन तैयारी चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को प्रेस करके लेटेस्ट वीडियो देखें सबसे पहले।
हेलो दोस्तों, वेलकम टू ऑनलाइन तैयारी। और हम लोगों ने एक नया लेसन प्रोग्राम शुरू किया है जिसमें कि वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री और इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस कवर करेंगे। हर वीक आपको 2 वीडियो मिलेंगे जो वर्ल्ड अफेयर्स एंड वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री से रिलेटेड होंगे। ये वीडियो तैयार किया गया है सिर्फ आपको बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट के लिए, क्योंकि मोस्ट ऑफ द कम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स में डीप क्वेश्चंस नहीं पूछते हैं। यू जस्ट हैव टू बी फैमिलियर विद बेसिक इवेंट्स एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव क्रिएटेड दिस वीडियो। सो be tuned with it, and we have also started to provide PDF for our notes, so you can find the link in the description of this video. So let's start with World War first. And as you know that this is the 100th year of World War One. So the World War One ended on 11th November 1918. So it is the 100th year, and that's why we have chosen this topic to start with this. And in this video we are going to see how was the world before the outbreak of the First World War, and secondly we will see what was the major reason and what were the events that led to the war. There are only 2 aspects we are going to cover, and that you only need. The first one is how was the world, and second is what events that led to the First World War. So let's start with, so it was the evening of 5 August 1914 when 5 columns of German army was converging on the town of Liege, the town of Belgium. So here you can see in the map that Liege is a part of Belgium, and German army was converging here. And for what? They wanted to conquer France, their ultimate goal, to defeat the France. So what happened there? German army thought that they can easily win over this small town, but to their surprise, their outpost forts, means the forts where Belgian troops were stationed. So it took almost 2 weeks to conquer finally the town of Liege, and it was the first major engagement of the First World War, and that changed the world history, and that's why we are going to study. So as I told you, we are going to cover only 2 aspects in this world before 1914, because you need to have a basic understanding of the world system that time. And second, events that led to war. I have included some major events that you will easily understand, and also it is very crucial to make understanding why World War started. So let's start with how was the world before the outbreak of the First World War. So we all know that during that time European countries dominated the world over, and the foremost power was Britain, and British Empire had colonies all over the world. It is said that they almost occupied, or they had influence over 60% territories of the world. So here in the map you can see they had colony in Canada, then Australia, then India, and Myanmar, and adjacent area of Indian subcontinent. And they had also here like Egypt and other parts of Africa. They had also some colonies in American continent, Latin America. And then the second major power was French had colonies in Morocco and other parts of Africa. And then they had also French Indochina. And the third major power was Dutch, and Dutch had colonies in Southeast Asia. And further, other European countries also had some territories world over, and such as like Ottoman Empire. That time Turkish Empire had colonies here, and they also had like Libya in Africa, and but they remained to their mostly in the part of Eurasian part, which was linking the Asian part to Europe. So that and one continent, one country in Africa region. So this was, you can see that world was dominated by the European powers. So it was European capitals where the world's fate was decided, and Germany was the leading power of the Europe, both economically and militarily. Germany had overtaken Britain in production of iron and steel, but not in coal. So iron and steel is important for any industrial country, and it was more prevalent that time because for industrial production you need iron and steel, and also to become a militarily advanced country you need these two resources in plenty to produce the weapons. So Germany had overtaken Britain, and other thing is that Britain was still the power to reckon with. Britain cannot be excluded in the power list, and other powers of Europe such as France, Austro-Hungary, and Italy were far behind these two powers. France, Austro-Hungary, and Italy were like powers in Europe, but they did not have much influence in the European continent. But there was one strange thing that emerged during that time, that it was not European powers who were rising at that much speed as USA or Japan. USA has overtaken Britain and Germany in production of coal, steel, and iron, and Japan similarly defeated Russia in 1904 and 1904 to 1905. So Japan has emerged a major power in Asia, and USA on the other hand emerged as the world power that time. So you can see it was European capitals where the world's fate was decided. Second, how was the political system that time? You need to have a basic understanding of that. So Britain, France, and USA, only three countries had kind of parliamentary system. And what do you mean by parliamentary form of government? That there is no superpower over parliament. It is parliament that decides the fate of the country. So only three countries, Britain, France, and USA, had parliamentary form of government. Germany had an elected lower house called Riksdag. Germany's parliament was called Riksdag, but real power lied with Chancellor and Kaiser. Kaiser was the emperor of Germany. So they had kind of parliamentary system, but that was not effective. The major decisions were lied with Chancellor and Kaiser. Italy had monarchy, but it was voting was restricted to wealthy people. And what do you mean by wealthy people? That the people who had some wealth or some lands or some influence, like a feudal system kind of, only then they can vote. So it cannot be called a parliamentary system in broader sense. And Russia and Austro-Hungary had monarchy. Russia was ruled by Tsar that time, and kind of revolution was going on, but still it was managed by Russia, Tsar. So Tsar was the ultimate power in Russia, and Austro-Hungary Empire also had a monarchy. And this is the basic region of World War, you can say imperialism since 1880. So what happened? Like after the Industrial Revolution, which happened in Britain in 17th century, that most of the European countries started to, navigate and reach to other countries to conquer, to in search of markets, in search of raw materials. And that time in more or less there was a mercantilist system in Europe. So what is mercantilist system? In mercantilist system, no country wants to import, every country wants to export. So what happens that most of the European countries were not that much trading with each other. They needed markets. So that's why most of the countries were in the race of new colonies, new territories where they can expand. And the second point of mercantilist system is that you don't a country does not want to have a trade deficit or balance of payment deficit, because they want to export more and import less. So that was the story of a scramble of Africa. Africa was divided among European powers. It was not divided based on the ethnic or language or other criteria for nation, but it was divided as per the convenient of European powers. And you can see still the conflict resembles the mistake of European powers that time. And China was divided among Britain, Japan, USA, and other European powers. So China is a huge country, and it was divided among all the European power, Britain, US, and other European powers. But also Japan had like Mongolia. It was Japan where Japan had much influence in Mongolia side, and but the major part is the main point here is that China still was not politically dominated by these powers. And we know that India and much of the South Asia was in the hands of Britain. So this is the imperialism. Since 1880, European powers had colonies all over the world, and the countries which did not have, like Germany, they resented others and they wanted to have colonies. And alliance system, which started with France and England, first went to Entente, we call it Entente, England and France, and later Russia joined it also. So it was a triple Entente, England, France, and Russia. And then was triple alliance between Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. So after that, other countries joined it later, but the basic formation was England, France, and Russia in one side, and Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy was one side. Now see, rivalry. Like European countries were each were like fighting with each other in some aspect. So there was naval rivalry between Germany and Britain. So what happened that after in the starting of the 20th century, Germany geared up to produce and manufacture more and more battleships, but still it was far behind the Britain. So there was a naval race between Germany and Britain, and then France resented the loss of Alsace-Lorraine into Germany in 1871. What happened in 1871? There was a Franco Prussian War in 1871, and there was one man called Bismarck which unified the today's Germany. So in that war, France lost Alsace-Lorraine to Germany, and it was kind of pride for France, and they always resented that. So somewhere in France, they always had that we will eventually someday take this territory back to France. And Germany had less overseas territories than other European power. We have already seen that Germany really had less colonies. They had few colonies, and it was not that much significant in African continent, and they got it after so much negotiation with France and Britain. And the other power, Russia, you can see here Russia was worried about Austrian Empire's intentions. And why? Because Russia thought that if Germany had influence over this part, then they are so close to Russian territory, and if that happens, that is a threat to Russia. And also they were not that much advanced industrially or even economically or militarily, and Germany was rising at the tremendous speed, and it became a problem. Basically Russia resented that. And next, this is the major region, and Serbian nationalism. So here you can see this was Austro-Hungary Empire. It consisted of so many ethnic groups. There were Czechs, there were Slovaks, there were Moldovians, there were Romanians, there were slaves, there were Croatian. So it was a mixed population. Like that empire had almost nationalities like from all over the European countries. So to rule that, it's very tough task. So that's why Austro-Hungary Empire was always against Serbian nationalism, because if one territory or one part of a empire gets away with that, then it will be a crisis, because all other parts like Hungarians, Moldovians, Romanians, they will also start demanding that we want to also have a separate state not under the influence of Austro-Hungary Empire, and it will become problematic for them. That's why they always wanted to crush the Serbian nationalism or Serbian aspiration for a separate state. So here you can see Austria was occupying Bosnia under the Treaty of Berlin under the 1878. So here is the Bosnia, and there was treaty, and Austrian Empire ruled that. But here you can see Serbian or Serbia wanted, always thought that Bosnia is a part of their, like Greater Serbia, Yugoslavia. So it should come under the influence of Serbia, but it did not happen. And so that's why there was a rivalry between Austro-Hungary and Serbian part. So, and what happened that the nationalists killed Alexander and the new King Peter was put on the throne. So what happened during 1910, Serbian nationalists killed Austrian King Alexander, Austrian Prince Alexander, and before that there was one King Milan who was much close to Germany. And after that Alexander came, and even he was more close to Germany. But the new king Peter started to show much alliance to Russian part, and because like slaves, like Russia also had slave population, and it's a kind of brotherhood between them, fraternity kind of. So what happened that the new king shifted its alliance to Russia, and also didn't hide their intention to unite all Serbs and Croats into one kingdom, and which will eventually become Yugoslavia under the Tito, that will later come. So this is here you can understand that the problem lies here in Austro-Hungary Empire and with Serbian nationalism. That was the major reason why the World War started. And as I have already told you that Austro-Hungary Empire was consisted of so many nationalities that it was difficult to rule, and they always feared that if Serbia becomes free, then other parts of that empire will also demand a separate state for them. So that's why they always wanted to crush any Serbian nationalism. So that was this. You have seen the world. Now we'll move to events in 1914 that changed the history. So here comes the action. We will see the major events before the 1914, how the events lead to the war. So first one will be Moroccan Crisis 1905. Then we will see Britain and Russia made a pact in 1907, and then Bosnian Crisis, then Agadir Crisis, and two Balkan Wars, and the final end, assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So, and here in this poster you can see how the propaganda of war was going on, that there is a mother, there is a wife with kid, and the father is going to war because they want to save their country. So that was the propaganda going on there. So before that, before the final moment, we just will see what were the major events that led to the war. The first one will be Moroccan Crisis. So Morocco is a part of African continent. It is the kind of eastern part of Africa, So what happened, that first thing you need to understand that Germany had no such colonies as comparison to Britain or French. And also whenever they tried to expand their colonization process, they were stopped by Anglo-French Union. So what happened that in Morocco there was a crisis going on. People were revolting against the Sultan of Morocco. So, and what happened that France wanted to have a control over the Morocco. And before that, uh, France and Britain had a pact that if France recognizes the British supremacy over the Egypt, then in return, Britain would recognize the French control over the Morocco. So that was the pact. They already had their understanding with each other. But Germany thought that history was filled with Anglo-French rivalry. Even though they were in the understanding, Germany thought that if they attack one by one, the other would not come to save the other part. So that happened. Germany sent gunboats to the coast of Morocco, but to their surprise, Anglo-French Union came together and a conference were held, and the conference resulted into all European powers supporting France's intention to capture Moroccan coast and police. It was a diplomatic defeat of Germany's realpolitik. So first, Germany was diplomatically defeated by Anglo-French, and other European powers came together. So Germany was left alone. Second, Britain and Russia make understanding. So Britain always thought that Russia is a kind of corrupt and undemocratic country. They did not like Russians. Basically, they never liked Russians. Russia, for them, Russian is not a civilized people, so they always had kind of reservation against Russians. But things were changing that time. What happened that after the Russian defeat in 1905 against Japan, Japan was the first Asian country who defeated a major European power, and that was Russia. So after that, Tsar's position was weakening. So he allowed freedom of speech and lower parliament in Russia, and that led to Britain to have some kind of treaty and agreement with Russia, because Russian Tsar has allowed freedom of speech and a kind of parliamentary system. So Britain finally had a understanding with Russia, and as you can see, Germany saw them as encircling her, because if Germany is here, Britain is here, and Russia is here, France is here. So imagine a country. Here is Germany. They all had pact with each other, and you are left alone here. So any country would think that even though they might not have come together to make a war on Germany, but Germany thought that they are encircling her, and Germany resented that. So let's move to next, Bosnian Crisis. As we have already discussed that Bosnia was under the Austro-Hungary Empire, and Bosnia was inhabited by Serbs, Muslims, and Croats. And Serbian wanted to annex Bosnia and make it a part of Greater Serbia. So what happened that Austria announced that they are going to annex Bosnia, and it was resented by Serbia. Why? Because there was almost 1/3 of the population were Serbians. So Serbia wanted to include Bosnia into their Greater Serbia part, which will become Yugoslavia further after the First World War. So it happened like that. So Austria announced that they are going to annex Bosnia. So finally, Serbia appealed to Britain, France, and Russia for help. but no power came to rescue for Serbia, as no power wanted to interfere, as Austria had support of Germany. So this is the basic, understanding you have to make, that Germany had allies like Austria, Italy, but they were so weak. They were more dependent on Germany rather than Germany can become dependent on them. But that time, Britain and France thought that no, they should not interfere, because all countries were into the, they did not want to check the German expansion plan, and because Austria had a pact with Germany, no country dared to help Serbia. Next, Agadir Crisis. Again, we are back to Morocco. So what happened there? Agadir is a coastal area of Morocco. So what happened? French occupied the Moroccan capital Fez. So they occupied Fez to suppress the revolt against the Sultan. Again, a revolt was mushrooming to remove the Sultan from the power. People were revolting against that, but France was helping Sultan, and again Germany sent gunboats to Moroccan coast of Agadir, and Britain became worrisome, as if Germany was able to control the Moroccan coast, its trade route can be disturbed. So Britain was a naval power, and to have a world trade, you need to secure trade routes, and Agadir was a part of their British naval routes, where like British interests were high. So wherever the British interest came, they always went against whichever the power was trying to have influence on their particular trade route. So Britain announced that Germany cannot control the Moroccan coast. So that's why Britain supported the French cause, and finally German gunboats were removed from the coast in return of some small territories in French Congo. So again France and Britain came together, and German colonization expansion plan was stopped. So you can see, whenever Germany is trying to have more colonies, it is stopped by France and Britain together. So basically the war was mushrooming because one power was not having enough say in the world affairs, and if Germany is trying to capture some territories, it is stopped by France and Britain. Next, First Balkan War. So you can see this thing, this area is Balkan, and Balkan has been a problematic area for the entire 20th half century, because two world wars were started from here only. So there was Balkan League started to annex the remaining territories of Ottoman Empire in Europe. So basically Turkey, that time Ottoman Empire had colonies in the Europe, and most of the countries got freedom from Ottoman Empire before that. But what happened, that Balkan League consisted of Serbia, Montenegro, Bulgaria, and Greece, and they all were part of once Ottoman Empire. And now they announced that they are going to annex whatever territories have been left by Ottoman Empire, because Ottoman Empire that time was so weak, it could not sustain the combined army of Balkan League, which consisted of Serbia, Montenegro, Bulgaria, and Greece. So strangely, Britain and Germany this time came together to prevent another crisis in Europe. So it was settled, but what happened, that territories were given to these Balkan League, but it did not result into a major crisis, because Britain and Germany came together, and people were hoping that it might be the new start, because Britain and Germany are working together, so there cannot be a war between Britain and Germany. But it was for a very short period, and before it can something treaty kind of result can result into in between Germany and Britain. The Second Balkan War started again. What happened this time? Bulgaria was dissatisfied with its gains in First Balkan War. So Bulgaria, during the when all the countries came together, Balkan League they created, and they started to acquire the territories whatever left by Ottoman Empire. But Bulgaria felt that they did not have enough territories and they were cheated during that time. So what it did, they were hoping for Macedonia, but most of its parts were given to Serbia, and that's why it attacked Serbia. So here you see Bulgaria attacks Serbia for what? To get Macedonia. But strangely, this time Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria supported Serbia, and finally Bulgaria was defeated, and most of the territories were taken back from Bulgarian acquisition of territories in the First Balkan War. So Bulgaria, what happened that Turkey, Greece, and Bulgaria came together and supported Serbian army, and finally Bulgaria were defeated. And that time Austria wanted to conquer. Not only that, they wanted to attack Serbia, because Austria always was itching to attack Serbia, to destroy Serbia, so there cannot be a national movement kind of that. So what happened that time? Austria was itching for to make a war against Serbia, but it was prevented by other powers. And finally, assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So here in the picture you can see this man was killed by this Gavrilo Princip. So what happened there? He was on the visit of Bosnian capital Sarajevo, and he and his wife were traveling in a car, and then this man shooted both of them and they both died. So what happened that, because he was Austrian prince, so and it happened in Serbia. So what he did, Austria declared war on Serbia on 28 July 1914. And if Austria is declaring war on Serbia, and Serbia, as I told you, the King Peter became very close to Russia, and Russia did not want to disappoint this time to their Serbian brothers. So Russia mobilized the troops on the border, and seeing this, Germany declared war on Russia. And finally, what happened that later Germany entered into the Belgium, and Belgium, because it was a neutral country, and it was a neutral country on the promise of Britain that whenever someone attacks your country, Britain will come for your rescue. So what happened when Germany entered Belgian territory? Britain declared war on Germany, and once Germany, like other powers, Italy also came together with Germany, and it declared war on other powers. So slowly the war started, and it resulted into a devastation of not only humanity, but it has left a huge mark on that, because it comes there comes a time when people go back to history, go back to past, and they understand what makes people to take the route of war. And here we can understand how nationalism, protectionism, and other regions can lead to war. So that's all for this video, and we will again come up with another video of World War One. But till then, stay tuned with Online Theory, and if you have liked our video, please subscribe and comment. Thank you.